buttons. Right, I think I'm now audible. I'm probably not weirdly crunchy. And maybe someone is watching. Hooray! Right, thank you, Jacob. So, yes, someone said I should play... Ooh, full screen mode doesn't quite full screen. That's weird. Oh well. That I should play some Dwarf Fortress, so I thus have to remember how it works. Oh, it's kind of full screen in that the window is the same size as my screen, but I've lost the bottom edge of it. If I can't actually make this go properly full screen... Oh, that's working. Right. So, I do actually have two choices here, really. I can pick up my 30-year-old previous fortress from God's know when, or I can... well, Armok knows when, obviously, if I'm playing Dwarf Fortress. Or I can try starting an entirely new one and actually give you a kind of introduction to how things go from the start. I'm now staring at IRC, wondering if anyone wants to give me an opinion on which of those I should go for. Which means I now have to wait 20 seconds while we go through all the buffering. Okay, thank you, Pink Beast. I will, in that case, start from here. So my Dwarf Fortress configuration is not entirely stock. In particular, you may recognise the typeface I'm using. And this is Bedstead, my teletext-derived outline font, though of course it's now back to being a bitmap when it's being used for Dwarf Fortress purposes. And I've down configured a few things so that it will fit on my old laptop, which is probably a bit extravagant, or rather whatever the inverse of extravagant is. Stingy, given that my new one is a lot more powerful, but on the other hand it should mean it goes nice and fast. So start playing merely allows us to pick things up. No, let's do this the proper way. Create an entirely new world.
I'm just going to look up whether introvagant is a word.
Thank you. So yes, a slight warning that that this release may be a bit dodgy, but that's a good excuse for starting an entirely new world rather than picking up my old ones. So we have a bunch of settings for controlling what kind of world we want to create. Just trying to think if there's anything here that's worth adjusting for more entertainment value. Probably mostly you might want to turn up the savagery to make the world a bit more exciting, but frankly, actually savagery is not usually something there's a shortage of. There's usually a shortage of evil and good. Most places are rather boringly neutral. So, well, let's go. So, this being Dwarf Fortress, it's now simulating the entire history of the world. First the geology, and then the hydrology. Got some rocks to lay down, start some civilizations, and run time for a bit. And since this is the default settings, we're running time for, I think it's 100 years. And as you can see, as the world gets more complicated, the simulation slows down. Oh. That's unfortunate. That's very odd. Do you have a picture now? Is this something about full screen mode? Right, okay. It seems that it doesn't work properly in full screen mode. Right. Like, maybe the window title changes in full screen mode, at which point OBS loses track of it. Right.
You manually stretch the window to be nearly full size.
It's almost... Actually, the slight problem is it's a full screen sized window, but because of the title bar, I've lost the bottom edge of the screen, of the picture. So let us... I don't think you've missed anything very much. We're currently running... It's currently busy simulating the history of the world. I mean, it's kind of fun when it goes like running rivers and such like, growing vegetation. So I probably shouldn't try changing the size of the... it's going to take longer than I wanted. Given the rate at which it's going through years at the moment, I'm slightly worried. Maybe it runs to 150. Let's see if it runs to 150. So I can actually see what my what the bottom edge of my window is doing if I look at OBS instead. 138 years. I suspect that at least unlike Crusader Kings, I suspect that Crusader Kings is multi-threaded, unlike Dwarf Fortress, which is why Dwarf Fortress isn't causing my laptop to take off quite as much as Crusader Kings did. So, if it turns out that the limit is not 150, I may restart this with a shorter time limit, simply so that we get a world created in reasonable time. 150 sounds familiar. So you'll observe that there are 28, just shy of 30,000 people interesting people who have lived in the world. No, it's still going. I don't think we want to wait for this to step all the way through to 250, do we? Press escape. Enter or escape to pause/finish. Actually do something useful. No. All that's done is change the font size. What? It's clear that my new laptop is still not really fast enough to do this bit. Oh right, I can wibble the scroll thing and that gets me various wrong sizes of font. How entertaining. Right, states. All right, we have a message at the bottom of the screen which I can't see because it's off the bottom of the screen, so I'll have to look in there. Use the world as it currently exists. All right, let's use the world as it currently exists because I've got bored. Right, now I'm going to see if resizing this window works sensibly. Well, apart from the fact that it went to the back, but that's not really your problem. That's the wrong window, resize. Okay, can I not resize the Dwarf Fortress window? Right, so if I take Dwarf Fortress out of full screen mode, then maximise it. Yes, right, that's better. And that looks reasonable there. You've just got a weird black bar at the bottom of the screen. And you get to see some of how my OBS setup works in the meantime. Right, so we have created this planet, this world. It looks kind of interesting to me. So let's say we can move our cursor around it and find out what there is a little bit. So we have some righteous hills here in the land of Sax. We have the waters of distracting. We have a little island called the Somber Land, which has the braided forest in it, and that looks like an entertainingly evil, possibly volcanic area up here. So purple things are purple generally represents goblins and unpleasant and evilness. Red, oh, apparently is just a desert. That's also part of the Grizzly Desert. I wonder why that's red. Maybe an evil desert is red. Anyway, we can look in more detail when we come to actually find somewhere to place our settlements. But like we have a world. We can scroll around it. Like there's clearly some civilization up here, farmlands and such like. And we've got ice caps and we've got mountains, and it is properly a dwarf fortress sort of a world. So enter to accept that. Now, short delay while the entire world gets serialised to disk. Not a very long delay because I have a fairly fast laptop. Yes, we do in fact have an option, well not really an option, but something to save the world. Right, so now if I choose start playing, I think. Hello Dwarf Fortress, what are you doing now? Did I choose something too quickly or something? It claims to be updating. What's going on? Is this... oh no, there we are. I wonder what it was doing. We now have Region 6, our new world, which is called Osmlo. We will start in Fortress mode, which is the usual mode for playing Dwarf Fortress. And now we load up everything again. Now, so there is part of the behaviour of Dwarf Fortress is that it always allows a fortnight between your previous game and your next game. So it's simulating a fortnight of events in the world in order to set things up. And now we are in a position to choose somewhere to put our fortress. So here we have a map of the world on 3 different scales. From a view of probably the entire world down to something at the scale where our fortress will occupy, or rather the entire playing area will occupy that 3x3 square. It would be 4x4 in the default configuration, but I turned it down to 3x3 to fit better on my tiny laptop. So the thing on the panel on the right is listing what stuff is available in the square that we're looking at. So we can choose to for instance place ourselves in a warm temperate woodland area. Or maybe we could go for what's this then? Grizzly Desert, no vegetation, little soil. Can we get this to show us? No. So yes, we can move around, and then yeah, so that shows us different areas of the world. The world is made out of biomes, which are like sandy deserts or rocky wastelands or temperate grassland and such like. And the biomes, we can end up with our local area having multiple biomes in it, at which point we can ask about all of them. So what's that pie down there then? Okay, that's just some kind of a settlement which I can point to by doing that. That looks like some... Can I... Not easily, no. Wondering if I can find out what Spumnodongo was, but I suspect based on that name it's probably something quite goblin-y. I can probably ask to search. Can I go search for an evil area? Since Claire has said, can you choose an evil area? I mean, I haven't asked for very much, a very restrictive set of things. I feel it shouldn't take this long to find me somewhere. It may be that we've ended up with no evil in the world at all. Suitable site.
Did you say it's put it on there?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I understand it.
So, can you actually tell us anything about this? Escape browse results, does that help us? We've definitely... oh right, 4 and 6 to change... No, that just changes that, which is not helpful. That just moves that cursor around. Alright, escape browsing results. Right, and now it's highlighting all of the most evil areas. So we could have a sinister desert. Yeah, that's going to be fairly exciting. Haunted grassland. So the famous fields are an area of haunted grassland. Or over here we have a haunted swamp. I mean, swamps are definitely intrinsically scary, but okay, there's a haunted ocean. It looks like. No, the Waters of Distraction isn't generally haunted. I think. Decent dunes are a haunted rocky wasteland. I feel we should go for somewhere which has got some hills. That has at least some hills. Or we can head down here to a fairly large evil area of tropical shrubland. What's the elevation around there like? That looks kind of fun. Fun being a technical term meaning catastrophically fatal. So now I'm kind of looking at what is there around here that I might want to. So having kind of gone this area of haunted shrubland looks kind of fun. We now, in the top left, it seems to be a very heavily settled area, which might be a bit exciting. See if we can find... So if we're going to be around here, let's turn off all those flashing X's, because that's just going to be inconvenient. So all of this stuff in the top left that's I circumflex indicates existing settlements which we can't build our fortress in. It would be it's quite fun to have something that spans different biomes or similar, and preferably that's also reasonably hilly, because then we can have some fun with that. But I'd quite like to be a little way away from the actual settlements. So see if somewhere around here we can find somewhere hilly-ish, preferably also has multiple biomes. If not, then oh no, that's inside. Now we're getting into the we've got some biome boundaries around there, but it's all a bit flat. Well, that's quite a spiky area, which has multiple biomes in it. Where are the biome boundaries then? So, ooh, that looks quite... Okay, maybe no, I think that may be a bit too scary, too sinister. Now let's go for something uncomplicated, but evil, so it's going to kill me pretty quickly. And reasonably hilly, and that has that river at the bottom of it. So I think I've chosen where to go. The fortress isn't dropped from orbit. We don't get a fortress. We get 7 dwarves and a couple of carts which won't ever move again, and whatever stuff these dwarves have brought with them. Oh, we are on a biome boundary here. Excellent. Okay, right. I think I've chosen my location. We'll go for a 3x3 area simply because... Or maybe we should go for 4x4 because my laptop's faster now. Go on, since we've got the buttons for it. And it's default. Right, so... Oh, no. You, of course, don't get... So, we have a stream called Complex Brains. So... In the top left, that 4x4 panel indicates the area that the game is actually going to take place in. That section of it is tropical savanna. That section of it is tropical shrubland. There is no aquifer, but there is a river, a stream called Complex Brains. Both of them are haunted. We've got woodland, so we can get wood. There's some metals, but they're quite a long way down. And anyway, we're all going to die of evil anyway. Right. Embark. I've selected a large area. Okay. So in this version, they consider 4x4 to be a large area, do they? Given that I'm getting that warning, and I'm fairly sure, let's go for 3x3 and see if that doesn't give us the warning. So that's still spanning both biomes, isn't it? Yes. Right, so there are 2 different ways you could set things up. You can carefully allocate points to all of your dwarves, giving them, carefully working out what skills you want, carefully working out what equipment you want, and generally optimizing things. But it's 2337. So I will go for the crude approach of just give me the default, which is fairly terrible. You have arrived after a journey from the mountain homes into the forbidding wilderness beyond your harsh trek has finally ended. Your party of 7 is to make an outpost for the glory of all of Cogsac Noleth. Almost no supplies left, but with stout labour comes sustenance, whether by bolt, plough or hook. Provide for your dwarves. We're expecting a supply caravan just before winter entombs you, but it is spring now. Enough time to delve secure lodgings ere the jaguars get hungry. Tropical, so jaguars. A new chapter of Dwarven history begins here at this place. Letmoszaneg, Cobaltrelics, strike the earth.
With us.
No, with a pick, you fool.
Pointier or hurt less.
I assume that the game is now trying to sort itself out. Oh, you can see my mouse pointer. Excellent. Right. So what have we here? So the big map on the left, the small thing on the right shows us a map of our entire playing area. So that's that 3x3 rectangle that we carved out of the bigger rectangle that we carved out of the bigger rectangle that showed us the entire world. The next panel in from the right is the is a menu of useful things I might want to do, and the left-hand thing is the local area around my cursor. So I can scroll the thing on the left, I think, somewhere. I think there should be, let's just check this out. Are you actually responding, you silly thing, or is something gone weird again? That's working now. Did I do something to lose me? So at the moment that's just scrolling the screen around, yes, because I'm not doing anything. So what do we have? The main map shows us, and indeed the map on the right, shows us a horizontal slice through the world. The world, as in roguelikes, is quantized, so we can use less than to go up through the world and greater than to go down. So below, so most of the ground level is pretty constant around here, but there are some hills to the southwest, and there are some small ponds, and there is that stream which will probably be a decent source of water. If I press, excuse me, I have to remember the keys or look at the list. K, yes. So pressing K allows me to look to investigate the what's around here. So now I'm moving this X around and we get a list of what is under the cursor. So there's lots of exposed limestone. There's lots of dead trees, which does not fill me entirely with confidence, but you can get wood from dead trees just as well as from live trees. I just wonder when they grew. Or did they all grow before the evil arrived? Before this place started being haunted? There is murky pools containing stagnant water. Probably not good for drinking. And up here there is a river which contains pure water. There are also the roots of the willow trees, because unlike some games, cough cough, unconvincing Vikings, here willows do actually grow near rivers. So do date palms apparently. Oh, of course in this corner we're getting into the more tropical bits, so we have date palms rather than the almond trees that we have further south. What's that bright yellow thing then? Colony of ants. And importantly, down here we have a wagon and a stoneworker and a miner and a woodworker and a woodcutter, and our miner whom we can find out, things about. She dreams of creating a great work of art, for instance. What do I want to do? I wanted... Oh, I've forgotten how you get someone's inventory. T is items in buildings. Yes, there is a certain amount of... I can't remember how things work. So I want to check. So that tells... Yeah, so that tells me that our wagon has a bunch of stuff in it, as expected. Because this is the equipment we've brought with us. Now, we don't really want to be out in the open here. And we do have a pick. So I think the usual way to start your game of Dwarf Fortress is to dig a hole. So over here we have sandy loam. Did we have deep soil? I think we did. And black sand that we can dig into. What's that flashing? Oh, that's flashing because it's over a slope. Yes. Right, there's a brown recluse spider web over here. Maybe stay away from that. And more dead trees. So, for simplicity, let us dig a hole in this nice, dense earth hillside. Actually, let's make it the southern one. I don't know. No, make it the western one. Or we could, I suppose we could go into this bit of hill and then go down, couldn't we? Yeah, let's do that. That's nice and nearby. So, to do that, we designate a digging area. We say it would be helpful if some dwarves dug a hole. Say something like that. That will give us some space where we can put things. While we're waiting, let's also say cut down some trees so we have some more wood to use. So what I'm doing here is marking rectangular. I've marked some rectangular areas to be dug and some rectangular areas for trees to be cut down in. And then I will unpause. And I will unpause. Do I have to go out from here? Yes. Right. Now time is passing and you can see the dwarves moving. So one of them, so if we now look at our jobs list, we can see that our miner is set up, has decided to start digging, our woodcutter has decided to start felling a tree, and our fisher dwarf has gone, well, I'll go fishing then. Even though I haven't told them to go fishing, but like, it's what they do. We could perhaps usefully give ourselves the ability to start building things already, so let's try that. We'll want to build some workshops. Building workshops. So it's a good idea to have a carpenter's workshop early on, but we don't have any building materials yet. Okay, or is that because of my... No, I think that actually means we don't have any building materials yet. Well, that's fine. Someone's going off to cut down some building materials. Wood is a building material. We can use the wood to build a carpenter's workshop, which will allow us to build other things out of wood, like a door, because doors are quite important for your dwarven fortress. Indeed, the first tree has been cut down already. You can see that by the fact that there's a big pile of logs here. So that probably now means that we can build a carpenter's workshop somewhere. So here we're placing a workshop. I will temporarily place a carpenter's workshop outside the fortress because we haven't got much space inside. What do we build it out of? Well, what have we got? We've got some bitter orange wood. Right. Oops. So now in our job list we have a new job for constructing a building which has as yet not been assigned to anyone because I haven't unpaused yet. It's now been assigned to Onget, our woodworker. So there we can see Onget going over there and building a carpenter's workshop while our miner clears out this reasonably large rectangular area near the entrance. Right, so now what else can I do? Oh yes, the unit list is how I get a list of people sorted by people rather than what they're doing. So we can see that the miner is now bored because we've finished carving out a little cave for ourselves. So this carpenter's workshop, we can now get the carpenter's workshop doing things now that it's been built, and I think we're going to need a front door. So let us construct a door. I think we should also move our rubbish inside. So we've got enough space for all our stuff? Probably not, but we're going to have to go down to get more space. So let us dig downwards. Designate, no. Let's build a door. Designate a downward staircase. Say in the corner there. We'll make it too wide because it's kind of helpful to have more space there. Then we can designate an up-down staircase on the floor below, and designate an open area next to it. And like at this point I'm doing this fairly randomly, and then I will deeply regret how I've laid this out later, and I have no idea. I can never. The problem is that it's far too early in the game to be able to remember what I'm going to regret, as it were. Right, what's that going on there? That is some mist. Ah, right. One of the trees we felled was a willow tree. It was right next to a pond, and all the wood's fallen in the pond. Well, actually it hasn't. I think there's probably some wood left on the ground. No, it does look like the entire tree has ended up in the pond. So getting that out is going to be a bit of a nightmare. But you can see, this being Dwarf Fortress, of course, we saw this by the cloud of spray thrown up by the willow tree falling into the pond. So our miner is on his way down, on her way down rather. So meanwhile, we want to get some things inside. No, I want to set a stockpile. Stockpiles P. Now, what I'm going to create is a stockpile of almost everything, so that we get all the stuff brought in. But there are a few things we don't want to include. So first we want to say enable all of the kinds of things except refuse, and I think for the moment also except wood, because we've got quite a lot of wood but it's outside. So for now let's just do that and see what the consequences are, and create a stockpile here. So that should now encourage the dwarves to move at least some stuff from the wagon into the stockpile, and then we'll discover that my stockpile is far too small. So now if we look at the unit list, we have a lot of store item in stockpile jobs going on. And we can see the dwarves moving things into the stockpile using a wheelbarrow. You can see this dwarf here, our jeweler, is pushing a wheelbarrow, which I can probably might be able to work out how to find out what's in it. No, that's not the right button at all. Blah 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 blah. View object. So, which is an orange wood wheelbarrow which contains one orange wood splint, which is going to be useful when people start breaking bones. So now that splint is in the stockpile. They're not very efficient really, they're carrying one object at a time in the wheelbarrow. We have some space down there now, which we could use as an initial place for people to live. So stuff is getting moved in. We now have a splint and some pigtail cloth and some a bag of cave wheat seeds, which might be useful for growing things. So, meanwhile, the carpenter's workshop is idle, which means we have a door. Let us give our settlement a front door. One bitter orange wood door. Right, that will now get installed. Right, we're going to need 7 beds, aren't we? No, I didn't mean tea, I meant... What was the key for do useful things with buildings? I've forgotten it again. Q. Right, so let us build 7 beds. Because we're going to need somewhere for the dwarves to sleep. The dwarves will get unhappy if they don't have anywhere to sleep. So we now have the front door installed. Have a bitter orange wood door. That in particular means that if necessary I can lock the door. At least I used to be able to. I'm now slightly worried whether forbid is still... Yeah. And curiously that does actually also forbid enemies from coming in, which is helpful. And it stops noxious gases moving around and all sorts of good things like that. So what's that? We brought a cat with us. We have a stray cat. Excellent. Good for hunting vermin. And we have a bed in our stockpile. I think we should start providing somewhere for people to sleep. So we can designate this area as... No, that's not the right one. View rooms. Oh, I think... Oh yes, that's how it works. We have to wait for the bed to actually arrive, don't we? Sorry, now coming back to look at IRC and going, right, yes. Yes, as far as I know, my persuasion field only works on dwarves, and only ones that are part of my settlement, indeed. So, we have another bed. Yes, we do. So I think now I can select that bed and say, actually, this entire floor for now will be a bedroom. It will in fact be a dormitory, which means it isn't assigned to any particular person and is just a place where people can sleep. Any particular dwarf. We might want to build some nice bedrooms for individual people, but let's see what's going on first. We don't have any more beds yet. So I can find out whether a particular person is happy, though I've forgotten how. Yes, I think I was just looking in the wrong place. I pick my stoneworker. Nothing bad seems to be happening to her at the moment, which is nice. Though, do we have a shortage of alcohol? So what's the... There's going to be quite a lot of me going. I can't remember what the keys are here. It tells me about the people. Z, that's the one, right. So, one critical thing is to make sure that we don't run out of food. So we do still have an acceptable amount of food. This lists everything we own. I'm slightly worried that not everything is going to fit. What are those capital C's? That worries me. Probably not a problem. They're camels. Excellent. Oh right, we brought our cart here with our wagon here towed by a camel, which is why we have one camel kicking around, and we've probably also brought some dogs. Yes. So yes, we have one tame camel, one tame yak, 2 stray cats and 2 stray dogs. Stray means they aren't assigned to any particular dwarf. So we could assign some areas for the animals to graze in, and that will probably help to keep them happy. So it's not done like that, is it? So if we create, let's do it over here actually, zone, say here, make it a pasture, and then say the yak and the camel should be moved into it, and I think that will then cause us to get some jobs to shift the yak, which is being moved now, and the camel into that pasture, which will then make sure that they... Interrupted by a monitor lizard corpse. What? That's the kind of thing that's alarming. So... I don't quite know how he was interrupted by a monitor lizard corpse, so I'm mildly worried by it. Right, yes, there's an undead monitor lizard kicking around. That's quite bad. Reasonable distance away from most of my people, though. Fisher Dwarf is like over here. Problem with this is I kind of worry that monitor lizard corpse is going to be quite dangerous. So I think I want to start doing something. I mean, I can of course just go, look, this is only intended as a messing around thing, and I don't mind if the monitor lizard becomes dangerous, but you can see it's moving towards us, lurching, one might even say. Something has got into a fight. That red C on the left indicates that there is... Right, okay. While I was worrying about the undead monitor lizard, our Fisher Dwarf was actually busy getting into a fight with an alligator. So we can see the Dwarf Fortress excessively detailed body models. So the alligator has had a bruised liver, and with a bit of punching, the Fisher Dwarf has successfully punched the alligator in the head and knocked it unconscious, which is probably good for So where is this going on then? Oh right, he's somewhere up in the hills. Okay. Slightly alarmed by the way. No, that's not anything to worry about. Right, this is all rather complicated because the dwarf in question is halfway up a slope, which means that they're flashing alternating rather dark blue smiley face with upwards arrow indicating the slope, and right at the edge of the map as well. So yes, he is a fisher dwarf and there is a bit of alligator blood around. So I'm going to assume for now that he's going to successfully kill that alligator. Only he's now scared a bit apparently, which is fine as well. He's terrified while in conflict. He claims he is not scared. I don't believe him at all. I can, of course, also ask questions about the this medium-sized monitor lizard, which appears not to have very much of its body left, which is probably helpful. Yes, so that reptile, that alligator is not in a good way. Another way we can ask about a unit that's more that's funny, yes. Okay, I thought there was something that would actually show us a unit's body parts directly. I can't work it out. Oh well. Right, so yes, I don't know quite what our fisher dwarf is getting up with. Okay, that monitor lizard is becoming more of a worry. Yeah, that monitor lizard is a serious worry. You can see the monitor lizard has already attacked a dog and has then gone after our woodcutter. And the woodcutter, of course, has an axe, which makes them a particularly foolish person to attack. Our woodcutter is not very happy, and the problem with undead creatures is they're blimmin' hard to kill. So, like, despite the fact that our woodcutter has seriously damaged the monitor lizard, the monitor has managed to break one of its legs, it looks like, or rather removed one of its toes. So maybe we'll be fine, but I think this monitor lizard is something to worry about. So where's our fortress gone? What do I want to do? I want to define a burrow. That consists of, at the very least, all of the interior of our fortress. I want to name the burrow something. And what was the thing that I did with burrows to make this good? Then I define Alert, I think. Is that right? Yes. No, that's not what I meant. Right, so now what I've done is I've said if I set our alert level to all inside, then all civilians should confine themselves to the inside. So I think that should mean that I can now go civilian alert all in, set to all inside, and we should find that everyone starts heading in. Okay, what are you doing? This is becoming instinctive already. I go, what the hell are you doing? And I automatically hit V, and I couldn't remember that V was the tell me about a person button, but it is. Okay, you aren't actually doing any job, so why are you heading towards that monitor lizard? Right, okay, you're vengeful, if also terrified, and thus feel that it is your responsibility to do something about this zombie monitor lizard. Really, it isn't. It's just going to be unhappy if you do this. Oh, by it, I mean the entire situation, not the monitor lizard. It's dead, it doesn't feel happiness. Right, thank you. What's that thing that just turned up there? Is that a swarm of flies or something? Yes. See, the alligator I'm not really worried about. This may be foolish. I mean, admittedly, the fact that my woodworker is now has a severed artery or opened artery is probably not going to be good. How does my woodworker look then? That's the one I wanted, yes. The how is this person wounded button. So that alligator is fine, for instance. He's jeweler is fine. Monitor lizard is very unwell, but mostly because it has no innards at all. But the problem with being undead is that doesn't really stop you. Yeah, left lower leg cut open, left lower arm cut open, right lower arm cut open. That's not going to be a serious problem. That will heal. Right, we now have a problem that the alligator's inside. I kind of feel maybe we want to work. We probably haven't got any other weaponry, have we? We do have 2 copper battle axes and 2 copper picks, and I bet only half of those are actually in use. Can't tell from that. Yeah, so that one's just lying around. Right. How do I tell them to pick things up then? I think we want to create ourselves a military which will be led by no one has any ability at all. Let's just make our expedition leader, and everyone else is a member of the squad, and we will tell them all to remember how this works, that they should have a weapon of their choice. Probably a more efficient way to do this, like setting up a. Maybe I should. Oh, it doesn't matter. Just want to persuade them all that they might possibly want a weapon. Do I now need to say I want to activate that? S0 active. Schedule. Yes, the military in Dwarf Fortress is terrifyingly complicated and far more complicated than it needs to be. I can't remember if there's a way to simply say, look, just do something. If I have to go through and say I want to set an alert how do I now there was a way to say capital O, to say now please will you equip yourselves with suitable weapons and attack this thing, thank you. S, that's the one. A, K, that downed alligator. Right, so now everyone has decided that they are military, which is good because we need them to be. All being well, they may now pick up weapons and will now start deliberately attacking that poor alligator. So if I then go to my unit list, everyone wants to kill the alligator. My hope is that this might get this alligator dead. Not very optimistic, mind, but they were all standing right next to it. Oh right, the alligator's passed out through pain because basically it got punched to death. I mean, it's not yet dead, but given we've reached the point where we are hacking at its skull with axes, it probably won't last very long. That's nice, and the undead monitor lizard is still a reasonable distance away. And the fact that everyone's turned back into a fisher dwarf indicates that, rather curiously, you don't tend to get told that something's died. Because, like, obviously it's not worth logging a message once the thing's dead. It's dead. It's a boring object now. But you can tell because there is an alligator corpse in the doorway. Right. So we have a slight problem that we now can't close the door. So let us I wonder if you can butcher an alligator corpse actually. Problem is I can't actually build a butcher's shop at the moment. I don't think, because I don't think we have any materials. Oh, we've got, yes. There's a slight danger that no one will actually be willing to build the butcher's shop unless I let them go outside the fortress, because all the wood's outside the fortress. I don't really want many people going outside the fortress. Let's just go for... Actually, no. So my burrow doesn't actually include the front door. Let us slightly extend the burrow to include the front door, which will allow people to clear the door without leaving the burrow. Then let's edit the settings on that stockpile to allow... Alright, corpses are allowed anyway, right. So I think that should now mean that someone... Oh, I'm slightly worried that our miner is currently unconscious with pain. Because I bet they're being unconscious with pain in the entrance. Right, we can see meanwhile outside there's this hippo maybe about to have an interaction with the undead monitor lizard. So is someone going to pick up that? See the undead monitor lizard lurching towards the hippos. So we're getting a bunch of messages saying people would like to be storing things in stockpiles, but they can't because they can't get to them because I've asked them all to stay indoors. Undead monitor lizards are now moving away, possibly tempted away by those hippos, which have slightly more self-preservation instinct than my dwarves do. So maybe we can safely let the dwarves out of the thing temporarily, fortress temporarily. Which in turn means I can build a butcher's workshop down there now. Someone probably thinks that's their job now. Yes. though it's kind of dangerous to do that. So you can see that one of my dwarves here has a red plus on a white background flickering on top of them, which is an indication that they are unwell. So we can see that he's pale and has an injured head. Sorry, she's pale and has an injured head. Our expedition leader Sibrek. Her head is torn open, her mouth is mangled beyond recognition, her left cheek is cut open, her skull is bruised. That she is pale probably means she has lost a fair amount of blood. But she is not actually bleeding at the moment, so she'll probably get better. Similarly here we have Logum, our miner, who is also quite badly injured but not actually bleeding. So again, she'll probably recover. We might want to try to remember how to do medicine though. Let us do that by, I think I can just go make a tiny hospital. Aha. Actually, let us what I should do is build this vague feeling you don't want to put beds right next to one another in hospitals, but we need 2 beds in this hospital. Let's also stick some more beds down here so that people can sleep. Right, so now what? That was not what I wanted to have happen. Sorry. So it would appear that because people wanted to sleep, one of them has gone to sleep in the hospital, which means that the 2 people who are injured are now lying on the floor because there is only 1 bed in the hospital at the moment, which someone has swiped for sleeping on. That's unhelpful. So the alligator did die though. Monitor lizard hasn't yet caught any hippos. Good night. Note, when I say hippo, I do actually mean hippo. So, how does medicine work again? yes, we can see what people are doing. There's someone, our stoneworker, still moving things into the stockpile. I'm wondering, there is somewhere a show me. Actually, no, I have this feeling you have to do slightly more before you get medicine working properly. This would obviously be easier if I weren't insisting on doing this without spending half my time staring at the wiki. Oh. I had forgotten that about evil places. You know that dead alligator? Not so dead. Inside our fortress. Killing people.
It should become more dead, but it could be a later alligator.
Thank you, Gareth. Unfortunately, it is an unlate alligator.
Wow. That's not my fault.
Right, well, it's inside the fortress. My choices here are like bravely get, well, those are my people who are still alive and awake, to hit it with axes in the desperate hope that we can kill it again. Or don't know that we can sanely seal off that upper level. And if we can, we haven't got much down here. So the alligator corpse, yes, has caused some, has been injured a little, but my kind of assumption is that we're not going to be able to kill it. So that if I So I think so I mean, yes, I have essentially two options here. One is the brave but foolish one of sending my dwarves, activating the military and getting all 7 dwarves to go and beat this thing up, which will probably fail. Or I try to batten down the hatches. Since it is quite late, I think I'm going to go for the glorious defeat rather than the sensible batten down the hatches, accept that everyone who is above ground is liable to die. By which I mean who is on the top floor of the fortress is liable to die, and then see what I can salvage. Because frankly, I'm not going to carry on with this one. So let us go. No, not that one. It was No point in insisting that everyone come in. Squads. Holy towers. Attack. That undead alligator. This will not work. This will just go badly wrong. But like, let's go down gloriously. At least those people are awake. What the hell? So that stray cat just moved very rapidly across the map. I don't think it actually got attacked by anything. Meow! I think that was just an amazingly terrified stray cat, and that we're running at a fairly high frame rate. So we have 2 dwarves working on this now. 3 indeed. Wonder if anyone's bothered bringing any weapons. Doesn't look like it, does it? Because that would be sensible. I didn't actually mean to assign you 2 weapons, but yes, only one person actually appears to have a weapon. What's the... So, I mean, the alligator corpse is not looking well, but then it's already dead, so it's not surprising it's unwell. Licot is unconscious, exhausted, winded and nauseous, which isn't going to be helping them. Anything here that looks like we're successfully hurting it? Not in a way that's going to matter. You really need someone to actually bother picking up a weapon. So yes, that's 1 of my dwarves killed by this undead alligator. And like another one is probably about to bleed to death given that. yes, there we go. We only have one live recruit, and they haven't equipped themselves with a weapon. They are staying outside the front door, which kind of suggests some amount of sanity, briefly. The alligator is so famous now that it's got a name, now called Cobaltrelics. Sorry, Cobaltrelics. Well, yes. Right, the alligator is outside the front door. We have 2 dead dwarves inside. That needs to be fixed. Right. Our problem is that if those dead dwarves stay around inside, then they're going to rise and further unhappiness will ensue. So just define a small area out here as a rubbish dump. And say, get those corpses out of my fortress. Get the teeth out as well. I bet those can come to life. And the slight problem is the alligator's still there, so I might not want to do that right now. I might want to say, for now, get yourselves inside, because the alligator's outside and we can close the door. Maybe. Alligator is, right, dealing with one person who's still outside. They won't last long. In which case, I don't think we want. I don't have any spare doors. What I really want to do is somehow get those corpses disposed of without passing too close to the alligator. Yeah, he's probably going to die. I'm single stepping time here because if I run this at full speed, too many things will happen. Basically, I want to find out whether this remaining dwarf dies as a result of this. At the moment, the alligator corpse is stuck outside, but I'm seriously worried. I would really like some way okay, our remaining dwarf out there is also dead, I think. Oh no, no, they're still alive. We only have 2 dead dwarves so far. My problem is I need to get those corpses out, preferably with... Well, I suppose actually what I could do is something very, very silly. Let's delete that rubbish dump and create a very tiny rubbish dump there, and then temporarily allow people outside and see if that gets us. It won't, because everyone is asleep. The only dwarf who's awake is in the middle of a fight with this alligator. See, I think what I should do, and this won't work, will it, is deactivate them. Hope that they can see if he can get away. So cancel that. Activate the order that says everyone come inside. Yes, okay, they're unconscious anyway. Oh dear. Shukarkatan's corpse has risen. At least it's outside the building now. Briefly. Getting into fights with dogs. No, not quite outside the door, sadly. So I can't lock the door. Especially not now there's a corpse in it. So now, when someone wakes up, my major problem is that now all the living dwarves are asleep. I mean, this is not going to work, but part of our problem is that the door is blocked by a dead dog. We have 2 undead dwarves kicking around on the upper level, and one of them has found their way downstairs. Right, this is going to be the end very shortly. I'm just going to allow this to run, because the dwarves are not even going to wake up. Oh, the monitor lizards found some hippos to fight. Hippos turn out to be quite bouncy. That won't last. Just because you're the last survivor. Actually, no, there are still 2 of them. Both asleep. Well, yes. Not so much crumbled as been eaten by zombies. So yes, that was moderately unsuccessful. I could perhaps have saved it, but it was also late at night. Of course, the world gets carefully saved in case we need this settlement again. So you can send a second batch in there to try to recover from the first batch. So yes, well that was spectacularly unsuccessful. And now it's doing that thing where it doesn't respond to my key presses. Right. So that will be all for tonight. Good night. And thank you for watching.